And we get it rolling on the Krueger Show. Early morning turnaround after a late night, Friday night Giants-Dodgers postgame. Went to 1 o'clock in the morning, if you can believe it or not. And then now here we are. We're turning it around at 10 a.m. It is June the 17th, 2023, 10 a.m. on the West Coast. And we are joined by Grant Cohn. We're going to talk 49ers. This is the Pig in a Pickle Krueger Show, brought to you by Pig in a Pickle. 2 locations, great barbecue. Check them out. Emeryville, Corte Madera, open 7 days a week in Marin, Wednesday through Sunday in Emeryville. Pig in a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Yes, sir.
Can I just point out that Larry's show is sponsored by Pickles and Sausages? I'm just saying.
Pickles,
I'm just
sausages,
saying. I'm just saying.
And let's not forget Marin Auto Glass, as you see the scroll on the bottom of the screen.
Smart.
MarinAutoglass.com, New York style Italian sausage, and yes, Pig in a Pickle. People say to me, why do you say it like, deep in your voice like that? And I'm like, it's an old radio trick that if you yell, people kind of come closer to the radio. Hey, what are they yelling about? So I don't like to yell all day, but when
Larry has a lot of old radio tricks, which I study. Yeah. I like that.
Here's one. Yeah. Here's one. If you ever do radio. Coming up next, Grant Cohn with you on Blankety Blank Radio. Coming up next, Kyle Shanahan. Pause. What will he do on Sunday?
I like that.
Did you see that?
The pregnant pause. The
pregnant pause, because people think, oh, wait a second, Grant's got Shanahan coming up next. I just heard he got Shanahan coming up next. Let's just listen.
That's devious.
Brandon Tierney used to do that. When in the Harbaugh days, he'd be listening to 95.7 and be like, Brandon Tierney, here on 95.7 the game. And he'd be like, coming up next, Jim Harbaugh. Pause. What's Harbaugh going to do on Sunday?
So he's not going to be in the studio. Got it. Okay.
He's not going to be on, but it's a little trick. Let's talk a little 49ers. The Niners had their state of the franchise deal. I caught wind of it, caught a little bit online. Did you get a chance to watch any of their state of the state?
I didn't. It looks like propaganda. You have Greg Papa, God love him, like hyping up the crowd. I'm like, nah, man, I can't do this. Was there any actual news that came from it, or was it just like a cheerleading fest?
No, the only thing I thought the most interesting anecdote was that, John and Kyle had dinner at John's house and invited Jed when they basically went to Jed and said, hey, we need cash for Javon Hargrave.
They schmoozed Jed to get Javon Hargrave. They
basically, yeah. And it came across.
They took him out to dinner?
And they will into dinner at John's place. But it came across like, hey, John was like, hey, this is what I'm going to say. And Kyle's like, no, let's try this. So it just kind of
they're like, hey Jed, we love you, right? We're friends with you, right? We're like BFFs, right? All right, can we get Javon Hargrave? He's like, oh yeah, for my buddies.
We need some extra cash.
Sure. You love me, right? We're good, right?
But I thought we could do our own version of State of the State, and let's get right to it. I've got some questions. Sometimes I wing it. Today I formalize these questions. So we're off and running. Here we go.
Real quick. I watched the first 2 minutes of the state of the franchise, and I'll tell you when I turned it off. When Al Guido said it would have been nice to have a fair chance in the NFC Championship game. I turned it off. Oh, I can't watch this. I feel like the Niners are Ferris Bueller, kind of running around with not a care in the world, thinking that everything's going to work out, and I'm their sister being like, oh my God, here we go again. You haven't learned from your mistakes. I have to clean up your mess. I feel like such a whiner. But I do feel like the sister, like looking up. But the sister was the hero of Ferris Bueller, if you remember. She came through at the end. If we remember that movie.
I love Ferris Bueller. I love how we're gonna reverse the odometer, and that didn't work out too well.
It's not working.
Not working. That was a great movie, by the way. He went to Wrigley Field and the whole deal. Ferris Bueller.
I did that. Yeah. I went to Chicago last year and recreated a lot of that day. Ferris Bueller. Michigan
Avenue, I want to know before we even get rolling here, will you be streaming from a location in the Hamptons, or will you shut it down?
No streaming, but I'll put out videos,
Put out videos, kind of like
a slice of life from the Hamptons. Yeah, it's gonna be nice.
I kind of like the Mexico City. This is the street taco I'm about to eat. I like those videos, and they did well. They did
They
well.
did.
Those videos did really well. I think
People
maybe
wanted to be in Mexico City vicariously through me. I mean, that was quite a trip. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it looked Mexico City is a sinking city, right? But it looked incredible. Like
What do you mean sinking?
Well, I don't. Yeah, you can look it up. I mean, type in Mexico City
Oh,
sinking.
right. Because
because of the soil and the
Right.
population and the pollution,
so many people.
it's like
Yeah.
sinking
Wow.
into the earth like by like a quarter inch every year.
It's one of the most remarkable cities I've ever seen in my life. I mean, it's so many people. We're flying over Mexico City. It's the biggest. You think like the LA sprawl looks big. Like,
right.
Oh my, I've never seen a bigger area of people in my life. Ever. I'm sure there are places like that in Asia, but not in.
How much exploring did you do? I mean, did you try to keep it like within a few miles of the hotel, or did you like really venture out? I mean, because you're talking about a massive population.
I made one adventure. I was there for 2 days. I had to make a decision. Do I go to like some museum? I thought a cool thing to do would be to go to a tianguis, which is like a flea market.
Okay.
It's a flea market. So to me, that's like, instead of seeing like what Mexico used to be like, what's it really like? And it's just miles and miles and miles of flea markets. I thought it was really cool. So that's the video I took.
There's supposedly lots of buses everywhere, and oh my god, the traffic is unbelievable. And there's a great show on the BBC. It's called The Busiest Cities in the World, and they go through. One. Yeah, it was Mexico City, Moscow. I think it was like New Delhi, maybe New Delhi, and just seeing the population of these places. If you ever felt like, man, it's too busy here in the East Bay or whatever, it's too populated here, go check out New Delhi and then come back and tell me it's too populated.
Stop at a red light in Mexico City. All of a sudden, there are dozens of people selling whatever you want, flowers, whatever you want. Like, it's really convenient.
Well, it was
every time.
I was hoping the Niners would go back there, but not this year at least.
They have a bigger home field advantage in Mexico City than they do in Santa Clara. That's not even an exaggeration. I've never seen. Wow, that was cool.
I mean, who's running the Cardinals? You didn't know that 90% of the crowd was going to be pulling for the Niners in your home game?
That was supposed to be a home game for them. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, that was quite the scene.
The guy who did the halftime show got booed off the stage because he was wearing a Cowboys jersey. That's how passionate these Niner fans were. They're like, get the hell off the stage. That was funny.
That wouldn't even happen. That would not have happened in Santa Clara, but it does happen.
No one would have noticed.
City.
Yeah, it was great. It was so good. Booed him off the stage.
Man, what do you even do at halftime? In a game
in Santa Clara?
At halftime? Yeah. Do you stand there in line for the
hell
I call them the Joe Montana chicken strips because they started cooking them in Montana's final year.
That's when the shame hits in. Like, man, I shouldn't be eating. I'm disgusting. My eating on football days are bad. It's a lot.
Mine's gotten
worse.
Of
candy at first.
Well, I was going to say they've upped their game in the candy bar, and now they're giving you little bags so you can sit there and like, oh, wait a second, I'm going to get a bunch of M&Ms. Oh, wait a second, I'm going to get a bunch of Jolly Ranchers.
And you can just see person after person going there and making bad decisions, man. It's like, don't do it. He did it. I'm going to do it next. I'm going to do it next. Yep.
They even have an entire. No, I can't go here, but there are guys that go deep into the ice cream. I mean, there's like a big old ice cream container, and I mean, you can go at it on game day.
Yeah, it's like basically they're saying like, here, kill yourself. Go ahead, kill yourself.
Exactly.
Die. Don't come back.
I'll go. The chicken's so dry, it's like jerky. I'm like chicken jerky. Let's try some chicken jerky.
The quality of the food goes down throughout the day. Like before the game, it's a great spread, and then at halftime, it's barely edible, and then after the game, it's like this pizza that's been out for like 2 hours. It's like, hey man, I don't think you should eat that.
Yeah,
nah.
Though they do bust out beer at the end.
They do. Again, they're like, here, don't be serious about your job.
Yeah,
just drink. Forget analyzing the game. Here, have a good time. It's like, no,
have a few pops and make sure we sound good.
Uh-huh.
All right, let's get right down into it. Okay, here we go. First question here is, we've talked endlessly about the quarterback issue, but is the quarterback issue the primary issue? And if it isn't, what is the biggest issue that faces the 49ers going into this year? Is it really Brock Purdy, Sam Darnold, Trey Lance, Brandon Allen, or is that just kind of the issue that really gets eyeballs and people listening and people engaged, but really bubbling beneath the surface, there's another issue that we're not really talking about.
It kind of feels like the low hanging fruit that you can always go to on an off day. I mean, an off season, what's today? Saturday, and get engagement. Like, just have a strong take. Trey Lance isn't good. Brock Purdy's great. Trey Lance is great. Brock Purdy isn't good. One strong take, any of those ways, and you get a conversation going, which is fun. You want to have a sports conversation. That's what it's all about. But like, at a certain point, doesn't it feel like it's not the right conversation? Like, we do this every year. And really, shouldn't we be talking about the guy who picked this room, who put this room together, who pitted these young guys against each other, I'm not saying he got them hurt, but he can't keep them healthy, any of them.
Right.
So I feel like no one wants to have that conversation because, one, it doesn't get good engagement. Niner fans, like Kyle Shanahan has like an 80% approval rating. So people just take him out of the conversation and focus on the very young men battling it out to play quarterback, when really next year it could be Kirk Cousins or something. It's like, we're so focused on the game of musical chairs at quarterback when we don't want to talk about the person who's made it a game of musical chairs. Is I guess what I'm talking. It shouldn't be a game of musical chairs. He should tie himself to a quarterback.
Kyle is the biggest issue. Kyle is the biggest.
I do think, because the quarterback position is the biggest issue, but he made it that. He's made it that. It's year 7 of his tenure, and he can't find a solution. Maybe it's Brock. But he's also talking about Sam Darnold. He just seems so wishy-washy at this spot.
I think the biggest issue is the fact that they're a hamstring injury to Bosa away from, Austin Bryant and Kerry Hyder potentially on the edges. And it's like you spent all this money on Hargrave to up your D line, but man, you let 3 guys out the door in Ebukam, Amenahue, and Jordan Willis that were all starter caliber. I think one of the unspoken stories of last year is that the Niners had a bunch of different guys who could start on that D line. And now they've got Cleveland Farrell, Austin Bryant, Kerry Hyder, and I think the defensive end spot. I mean, I love Drake Jackson the way he's looked, but we don't know if Drake can do it for a full year. And Bosa's been healthy recently, but he had a lot of injuries, missed a lot of games at Ohio State. I just think that you could easily get into like the meat and potatoes of September, and all of a sudden be looking up and be like, well, wait a second, Bosa pulled a hammy and Drake's got a quad, and suddenly it's a reverse defensive line where you've got pass rush inside and very little off the edges. I'm a little concerned about that, to be honest.
It's a good concern. Let me just come back to the quarterback position for a second. I think what I'm trying to say, maybe I didn't express it well, is that the debate, who's better, Brock, Trey, Brock. I think the assumption that you're resting your debate on is that one of them is a franchise quarterback. Who is it? And I think the actual most likely outcome here is that neither one is a franchise quarterback. And again, fans don't want to have that conversation, so you just go back and forth. Oh, it's Trey, it's Brock. No, most likely it's neither. And what's crazy about this team with all this talent and Kyle Shanahan, the genius, is before they traded for McCaffrey last year, they were averaging 19 points per game. So you talked about a hamstring injury to Bosa away. What about an ankle injury to McCaffrey away? What happens to this offense if McCaffrey misses 2 months? I mean, we saw it last year. It wasn't good. So I feel like now the quarterbacks would be exposed. What would Brock Purdy look like without Christian McCaffrey or Trey Lance? We saw Trey Lance without McCaffrey last year. It wasn't good. What would Brock Purdy look like? That's what I want to know.
It's interesting because I kind of lean the other way that it's not that they don't have any franchise quarterback. I think we're making a huge deal about the quarterbacks. I think it's very likely that they have multiple franchise quarterbacks. I don't have that much pessimism. Like, I think there's too much pessimism on Darnold and Lance, and too much skepticism on what Purdy's already done. I really think if you look at quarterback play in the NFL, this is par for the course. Young quarterbacks don't win, and older quarterbacks get better with age. And I mean, I'm looking at every Hall of Fame quarterback in the last 30 years. Basically, there's been like 30 Hall of Fame quarterbacks. There's like 2 of them that started hot, like Marino and like Roethlisberger, if he makes the Hall of Fame, maybe Russell Wilson. Obviously, Mahomes started really fast. But I just think we're so clouded by Mahomes that we're not seeing that the real story at quarterback is that they all start slow. And like people are losing their mind. I've heard people go, Trey Lance is a bust. Really? He's 2-2 with like 5 touchdowns and 3 picks in a couple of years. Sam Darnold is a bust. He'll never be good. Sam Darnold is 25. Now, granted, he wasn't good with the Jets and was only slightly better with the Panthers, but I can name 20 quarterbacks that didn't do squat until, Kurt Warner was a Hall of Famer, didn't even make it to the NFL till 28. And there's 5, 6, 7 other quarterbacks that I can think of. Steve Young was 11 and like 23 with all kinds of turnovers at the beginning. So I don't know. I just think it's really hard to play quarterback in the NFL, and that we judge these young quarterbacks too soon. And it's like, we've already decided, or not, lots of people have decided Darnold can't play and will never play. Trey Lance will never make it. And it's not a Niner thing only. Zach Wilson. You say Zach Wilson to NFL fans, oh, bust, total bust. He can't play. These guys all can play, I think, and it's just a matter of time. So,
Okay.
that's just,
Can I just say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
I just look, I'm not trying to be negative here. I'm just saying, like, if there were a bet in Vegas and you had to put $10,000 on it, do the 49ers have a franchise quarterback on their team? I'm betting no. I just feel like that's the safer bet here. I mean, you look at the Shanahan's, plural, track record developing quarterbacks. They've never developed a franchise quarterback. And the Niners haven't acquired a franchise quarterback, the Yorks, since they ran off Jeff Garcia. So I'm just saying the odds, just playing the odds. I'm thinking probably not 1, let alone 2. And again, like, so if you
you're not
assume that they have
the quarter. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I mean, if you assume they have 2 franchise quarterbacks in the room, then you love Kyle Shanahan. Then there's no issue with Kyle Shanahan. But if you think there are none, and this quarterback carousel competition is just a distraction from the fact that he doesn't have a quarterback, then that's the conversation. But I guess you got to decide what you think.
Well, okay. So, the quarterback that they had at the end of last year was Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy didn't lose a game and had great numbers. And maybe those numbers are impacted by recency. And, maybe the league's going to adjust to him and he won't be able to adjust back. But that's a projection. What's happening in real time is the guy's got 13 touchdowns and 4 picks and a 6-0 record and 2 playoff wins under his belt. That's what
I think that proves that he's going to be a franchise quarterback even with the surgery. That proves
no. But I think it's more, to me, if I've got to lean, he's the guy or he's not the guy. I feel like I've got more evidence to point to he's the guy than not the guy. And when it comes to Trey Lance,
Jimmy had a hot start too. I know there were differences, but hot start, like you just said, you can't judge too much on a slow start. I feel like the same thing is true on a hot start. 7-8 games, great, and a surgery. Like I'm still a little skeptical. He still was the last pick in the draft.
I hear you, but let's go beyond. Let's push our scope beyond Jimmy. Name me another quarterback that you can think of that really started fast and looked great and just fell on his face. And because I agree with you, Jimmy got worse. And I know people would say, well, wait a second. Didn't he have a good year this last year? He eradicated the huge negative play. He got rid of the huge negative play. But if you look at the numbers, he totally stopped throwing in the ball down the field and definitely down the field outside the numbers. Kaepernick.
Another guy who played for Kyle Shanahan, RG3. He had a great rookie year. He was voted by his peers as the 15th best player in the league after his rookie year. Rookie of the year over Andrew Luck. Tore his ACL, never was the same. So we'll see about Brock Purdy.
That was a physical deal. So I agree. Now we're in
Brock Purdy is a physical deal.
Okay, possibly.
Yes. No. He literally had surgery. We have no idea what he's going to look like. We don't know.
But as far as we don't know, we can't say for sure that he's diminished. Like if we saw him already and he was a rag arm guy, then we'd say, yeah. I think you're hitting on something there. I think there's always a race in the NFL between you get to the NFL as a quarterback. Do you learn what to do and how to do it before your body gets broken so badly that you're diminished, or you're mentally so screwed up by being sacked? The guys I thought you were going to name, the guys that come to mind, Rick Meyer, AFC Offensive Rookie of the Year.
Yeah.
Right. Before your time. But AFC Offensive Rookie of the Year, then 3 years in a row, he was the most sacked quarterback in football, lost his confidence, floated around, even came here. Jim Everett. Jim Everett was great at Purdue, great early in his career. People
Ghosts.
remember the Rome thing.
Sacked himself.
Yeah, and then he sacked himself
right?
against the Niners.
Yeah.
Against the Niners. He
just went
literally
down.
felt the pressure and just kind of caved down in the
and that was the end. That was the end of his career,
right?
Pretty much.
But I mean, those guys, I think, either got mentally fried by being sacked or they got physically diminished RG3 because of injury. But if you don't lose your arm strength or foot speed, and if you don't lose your physical, I think the arrow points up on 99% of all quarterbacks. I think
Here's
all
the reason
get better over
I
time.
brought up RG3, and I'm talking about Jimmy. It's just because this is a Kyle Shanahan thing. And I feel like what we see is a lot of times Kyle will find a quarterback who can run his system immediately or quickly and well. And that doesn't necessarily mean he's a great quarterback or an elite quarterback. It just means he runs Kyle's system very well. And when Kyle's clicking and the weapons are good and the defense is good, then that quarterback's going to put up elite numbers and win.
Right.
And we've seen it happen with RG3 and Jimmy Garoppolo and now Brock. It doesn't necessarily mean that guy's going to end up being a Pro Bowl quarterback or a great quarterback or a Hall of Fame quarterback. It just means that he's the next guy that Kyle Shanahan is having success with at that time. It also doesn't mean he won't be. Like, at some point, Kyle Shanahan could stumble into his John Elway or Steve Young. But you just have to acknowledge that he's had these little spurts of runs with system quarterbacks in the past.
There's no question, but let's go to the facts here on some of these other guys. Josh Allen is a rookie, 5-6, 10 touchdowns, 12 picks. Look what he is now. Jalen Hurts is a rookie, went 1-3. Look what he is now. Joe Burrow went 2-7-1 as a rookie and had an injury that was far worse than Brock Purdy's injury, I believe. Mm-hmm. And Joe Burrow might be, if you had a quarterback draft, he might go after Mahomes. Right? I mean, he's like highly coveted. Justin Herbert was real quick.
Brock Purdy has the it factor. We all love that. He's got the intangibles off the charts, but we have to acknowledge that he cannot compare to any quarterback you just said in terms of physical gifts, which are not all that matters, but it does matter. You can't compare him to Joe Burrow. You can't compare him to Justin Herbert.
Well, as far as a thrower, as far as stature, no. But as far as effectiveness,
athletically,
they can't compare to him as far as what they did at the same stage of their career.
Yeah, but if you put Justin Herbert on this team, I think he would have been pretty good. With Christian
but I'm just saying, Justin Herbert, first of all, Justin Herbert, I think to this minute might be sub 500, but Justin Herbert didn't have a good rookie year.
I'm taking Justin Herbert over Brock Purdy. That's
I know. I know what you're saying. I hear you. I know. I understand. Brock Purdy's not a big guy, and he doesn't have a huge arm. But Brock Purdy's got good numbers.
He's got all kind of stuff. I'm totally with you on that. I'm not writing him off. He's got all kind of stuff. But let's be honest.
Let's go back to January of 84 or January of 85 in the 84 Super Bowl. There were an awful lot of people going, Joe Montana doesn't match up to Dan Marino. He just doesn't. I'm not saying Brock Purdy's Joe Montana. I'm not. But I'm just saying the athletically superior quarterback isn't always the best quarterback. Otherwise, Jeff George would be awesome. You know,
we agree. So hey, I'm not writing off Brock or Trey. I'm being negative. Maybe I'm in a bad mood today. All I wanted to say is if this were a bet and I had to put $10,000 on it, I just feel like I'd go the safe direction. No, the Niners haven't found a freaking franchise quarterback. I would bet on them not finding one Kirk Cousins is going to be in this team next year is what I think. I'm feeling really cynical today, man.
See, I don't know why. I would swear that you would feel that like maybe Trey Lance was a franchise quarterback.
I don't have any confidence in Kyle to coach him. If Trey Lance had Brian Daboll or Nick Sirianni or Shane Steichen, that's a different story, but coaching matters. And Brian Griese is so in love with Brock Purdy. I don't think he's invested in Trey. I don't think anyone's really invested in Trey on the Niners. I feel like they just don't know what to do with him. And I think he's kind of just being put on ice. So we'll see if he develops himself with Jeff Christensen. But I feel like the best of Trey is going to be when he's on the next team. That's kind of how
What do you think of the comments of his teammates then? Guys like George Kittle and Trent Williams who are like, man, the sky's the limit for Trey.
And they've always said that about Trey. I still feel that the sky is the limit for Trey, but you need an opportunity. You need a coach who believes in you. You need a plan that a team sticks to. Like, he hasn't had any of that. None of that. So I agree. We'll see. He's still young.
2-2 is Trey Lance, though. Right now,
it's crazy.
Trey Lance. He's 2-2. He's completed 57%. He's got 5 touchdowns. He's got 3 picks.
Perfectly reasonable start for a young man's career. He was 21 and 22 doing that.
Right.
But look, they like Brock. They think Brock is super special. You think Brock is super special. So he's caught in this spot. He's caught in this spot. And the Niners are like, well, we don't know what to do because we acknowledge we haven't really coached him much and haven't given him an opportunity. And any number of teams could do better. So let's hold on to him. But in the meantime, we love Brock Purdy.
I think what they really love, Grant, is not Brock Purdy. It's what Brock Purdy represents. Brock Purdy represents going for it in the present and putting your most polished, ready-to-play quarterback on the field. I don't think that they think that Brock Purdy's super special. I just think they think Brock Purdy is ready right now on their timeline.
I think John Lynch thinks Purdy is super special.
You think so?
Well, I think he thought Jimmy was super special.
Well, I mean, are we overly negative on Jimmy? No. How many quarterbacks go to the Super Bowl?
Rex Grossman went. Yeah. I'm going to be overly negative today. I'm in a weird mood. I'm calling it right now.
Trent Dilfer.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying overly negative on Jimmy.
If you go to the Super Bowl, you're the guy. I'm just saying, Jimmy, we definitely got a hot start from Jimmy, but we also saw, Jimmy never. To me, the one thing that was off with Jimmy Garoppolo, tell me if you agree with this, is his risk reward dial. He never had it. So Rodgers, Brady, Breeze, some of the better quarterbacks, Mahomes, they understand risk reward. Jimmy didn't. Jimmy would 3 great passes, a great drive. You get to the 5-yard line, he floats a duck into 4 a sea of hands. It gets picked, and it's what the hell was that?
Let me be Jimmy's
awful lot. He did that a lot.
Lawyer for a minute because I love Jimmy so much. It's possible with a coach like Kyle, who's so micromanaging, pretty much tells you. I mean, what's the point of all those motions, right? To tell you what to do pre-snap. It's zone or man. If the middle of the field is open or closed.
Define the reads. Define
the
going.
read. Yeah. You're supposed to know where the ball's going if everything goes right pre-snap. So if you have a coach like that who's basically on your butt if you don't throw the ball exactly where he wants it, then let's say you throw it where it's supposed to go based on the pattern and the coverage and it gets picked. You could walk back to the sideline with a little grin on your face being like, hey, man, you told me to do that. You told me to do that. And Kyle will be like, yes, true, I told you to do that. But then at the post-game press conference, he'll throw you under the bus. That's the crazy thing. But I always feel like there was never any ownership for his mistakes with Jimmy because maybe if you have a micromanaging boss, you can always put it back on him and be like, man, I was just following your directions, bud.
And they were very detailed. Remember?
Yeah.
Jimmy with the mouthed out, your plays suck.
Yeah.
But you know what? I thought one of the things,
side.
One of my biggest takeaways on the Rollins video was that Kyle Shanahan does scheme up a lot of open receivers in that intermediate range, whether he did it for Jimmy, Purdy, Lance. Yeah. That's kind of Kyle's deal.
Yeah. And if you have that good of a run game and those kind of weapons, and you can make the run plays and the play action plays look the same, that's what happened. Mike was doing that in the 90s. That's the Shanahan trademark. Beautiful play action plays, but that's just a little sliver of football. It's not effective when you fall behind. It's not situational football. At a certain point, you got to drop back and pass. Maybe not in the regular season, but in the playoffs, you do. And I think that's the biggest drawback with their system is their offensive line is built for the outside zone. Their system is built for the outside zone and play action. But you need to drop back. You're going to go against a team that can score in a minute. You're going to go against Kansas City or Buffalo or one of these teams that can just drop back and score in a freaking minute. And you're so slow. You go to the line of scrimmage, you do 18 motions. Your whole offense is built on running the clock and winning time of possession. That'll win you the NFC West, but is it going to win you? Are you going to win the Super Bowl wasting clock? No, you got to score fast at some point. And I don't know that the Shanahan offense really does that. It's all based on guys breaking through on Yak. When they score quickly, it's Debo breaking 8 tackles. That's the quick score for them.
We're going to get into Kyle as a play caller. Astros says Larry's going to eat a lot of crow if Purdy lays an egg next season. Man, there's no doubt.
No, he won't. No, he won't. But Purdy's in a tough position right now. I want to point out, Jimmy Garoppolo tore his ACL, had the entire offseason to come back and start week 1, 2019, and then he went to the Super Bowl. Brock is not in that situation. Brock's going to have 2 or 3 weeks, and they're going to be like, all right, dude, you're good. That's essentially not fair. So I think people need to keep that in mind when we see whatever we see from Brock this year.
To me, not outside of the outside pass rush being a big issue, I think one of the biggest issues that we don't talk about is pass protection. I don't know that the 49ers I'm a little concerned about the pass protection. I'm concerned about regression from Trent and pass protection
McKivitz.
just overall. I mean, just seems like, how did Brock get hurt? It was pass protection. So, or the lack
Right
thereof.
side.
So to me, if there's a big issue on the Niners that we don't discuss, now granted, nobody's getting, we're not getting views and we're not making money talking about O-line play. But that at its core, I think is probably the biggest issue.
And it really only matters when you face Dallas, Philly like those few teams that have those crazy D lines. Like, and that's the thing about the Niners. They have this great team, but that old cliche football's won and lost in the trenches. Their offensive line, the right side, just folds against great D lines. And so you can have McCaffrey, Kittle, Debo, Ayuk, Juszczyk, Purdy, Kyle. If your offensive line is just caving in, it all falls apart. You scored 19 points against Dallas at home. 19 points. It never should have happened. I know it happens, but it's like you have way too much talent for that. But why did it happen? Because your right side of your offensive line. What was the stat? There was like 48% pressure rate on Brock Purdy.
Well,
hard to win that way.
And look what they did in the offseason. They brought in 2 tight ends who both are kind of known to be blockers. And we'll see. Cool. I mean, I didn't have any confidence in
a tackle would have been nice.
Yeah, a tackle would have been nice.
A tackle would have been good.
Nice.
Okay.
They love McKivitz, and you know what?
Do they love him? Did you hear Forster talk about him?
No.
He's like, he's not going to be as good of a run blocker as Mike. Let's just put it that way. I mean, Mike's a great run blocker. He's not going to be as good, but he's tough.
He's a pass protector. He likes him as a pass protector.
Okay.
I think he might be better as a pass protector and not as good.
Okay.
As a run.
Hard to be worse as a pass protector. Let's give him that. Hard to be worse than McGlinchey. Yeah.
Well, yeah, McGlinchey's issue was he just could not kick out with any speed against speed rushers. And so then he just started lunging out.
Yeah.
And once you're lunging, you're one right-hand club from going horizontal. And then he did. And we saw it. But I agree with Lynch as well when he said, you know what, McGlinchey had some high-profile failures, and those circulated. And so I think people, like, he ain't worth the money that Denver paid him, and Denver doesn't realize it yet. They will. But he's also not as bad as 49er Twitter thought he was. He was he was in between, like a lot of things. He wasn't as bad as they think, but he wasn't as good as Denver thinks. I'm just glad they didn't pay him, because I don't think, to me, his issue was not an issue that was going to improve over time. It was an issue that was going to get worse over time. So,
I feel like his run blocking really deteriorated after the injuries. Like, he used to be the kind of guy who you'd see him like hit full stride running downfield on like downfield blocks. I see him, he limps around the field now. Does he not?
Yeah. Well, and also I think his greatest strength was that his intelligence and his accountability. Right. He was assignment sound in the run game. He blocked the right guy.
No doubt.
But he didn't sustain the blocks nearly as long as you would think. And he was not a guy that could pick off athletes in space, especially not. And we saw it. We saw it multiple times. All right, let's get to
I thought their run game improved in 2021 when he went down and Tom Compton went. All of a sudden, they were like getting all these explosive Debo runs around the right. That was Compton.
Yeah. No, Compton was very, and what was Compton? Compton was a guard,
Yep.
All right, here, question 2. Does Kyle Shanahan panic in big games? Give me your thought on that.
It's an interesting thought, right? Because a lot of times he'll talk about, well, we got to see if the lights are too bright for certain players. Like, he's played well with Jordan Mason. He used to talk about that a lot. Like, yeah, he was great in preseason, but, regular season's a whole different beast. And that is a good point. Sometimes you can see, like, De'Aaron Fox, I felt that game 7, he just wasn't. It was too much. Steph Curry had the 50 points. De'Aaron Fox just stopped shooting. The moment was too big. I feel like we've seen a little bit of that from Kyle in his career, where he'll be on like the hottest of hot streaks. And then all of a sudden in the last game of the year, he does something that's so out of character. Like 2019, he's on this crazy streak with Mostert running, and you can't stop him. And it's like he has this master class in the NFC Championship game against the Packers, where he runs for all these years. It's just one of the most amazing play calling displays ever. What Kyle Shanahan did to the Packers.
229 yards.
It's just amazing. 8 passes in modern football to win that way. It's like, it should have been one of his biggest. It should have been a legendary prelude to his Super Bowl victory, to his coronation as a real genius. But what did he do? He stopped running in the second half with a lead and put the game in Jimmy's hands. It's like he cracked. And then this year, this is why I think about it. George Kittle was talking a lot recently about how smart Kyle is and how he sets up big plays And the example was, he called a bunch of bad plays against Seattle in the playoffs. They were down 17-16 at halftime.
Runs that go for a yard, something like that, but it sets up play action in a future play call.
Correct. Because he's so patient. He's so confident. He's such a genius. So thinking 8 plays ahead sets up these plays to give him a better chance to succeed. You're supposed to do that. I mean, that's what Bill Walsh did. But then what happened against Philly? Okay, let's go slow. They win the coin toss. They defer because that's what they always do. But Philly's the fastest starting team in the league.
Right.
So the Niners are banking that their number one defense is going to get a stop. They almost do. But Kyle is in his head or something and doesn't challenge that 4th down throw. So Philly scores a touchdown. The Niners are down 7-0, okay? They're moving the ball on their first drive. Moving it. They're 2nd and 6 at the 50. This is where Kyle Shanahan, the genius, the patient coach who sets things up, calls a freaking run. Calls a run. Plays the long game. What does he do? He calls a shot play on the 6th play of the game before setting it up. And the defensive line doesn't react to the play fake. It's a disaster. The quarterback gets hurt. To me, that's him being out of character. The Kyle we know would never do that. He didn't do that 2 weeks ago. He respected Dallas, but he fell down 7-0 to Philly after missing that challenge, and I think he panicked. I can't believe that call was in the original script. I think he panicked.
To me, I don't think he panics. I think panic might be the wrong word.
That's a strong word. It's a strong word.
I don't think he panics. I don't think in that Philly game he saw it for what it was. I think that Philly got 70 sacks this year. Why did they get 70 sacks? They got 70 sacks because
They're winning.
Well, they were winning all the time.
They're
they also
winning.
had incredible rushers inside and outside. Yeah. But they stopped even playing the run on the play action game. So if you're a play action team,
you're screwed.
You're basically, and they're not going to honor the fake at all, regardless of game situation. You're really giving them an extra chance, extra second.
You're slowing yourself down.
You're slowing yourself down. So I think he should have gone away from the play action, but he's comfortable with the play action, and that's a big tenet of his offense. And he went to it, and they sacked the quarterback. And we can all say it was Croft and this and that, but that's all Monday morning.
They could have ran the ball. It was 2nd and 6 at midfield. Slow down. What's the big deal?
It was that play action was not really going to work against this Philly team. And it didn't. I mean, and you saw it right there with Hassan Reddick just burning right by the edge. He didn't.
But when Kittle was talking about how he sets plays up, weren't you thinking like, hey, what about Philly though, man? What happened in Philly? You didn't set that up.
Well, I just think it's an inability in that game to recognize. To me, if there's an issue with Kyle, it is risk reward. And at time, like, for example, I went and watched the All-22 again on the Dallas game and the Philly game. I thought in the first half of the Dallas game, you can sit there and talk about Dallas did this, Dallas did that. I thought the play calling was very conservative in the Dallas game. It was like, we know Dallas has got a rush, so we're going to be real conservative, and we're not going to lose the game because they're a big play team with an outstanding rush. We're going to be real conservative. I thought they were too conservative in the Dallas game when they didn't need to be. And then I think they got way I mean, if you compare that, and this is with Brock Purdy, then go the next week at the end of the first half, it's 7-7. They don't have to, or was it 14-7? It was 14-7, I think, right? Towards the end of the first half.
17-16 with Seattle. No,
I'm talking about the Philly game.
The Philly game. I forget. Yeah, you're right. It was close. It was
close. And instead of just running the ball, going into the locker room and shortening the game, that's, to me, the conservative approach should have been in Philly after Purdy went down. Instead, he gets super aggressive with Josh Johnson.
Why?
At the end of the first half and gives up a score, and it just, has a
But
huge
if you're making
turnover.
erratic decisions in the biggest game of the season consistently, like, what does that say about you?
I think
I'm not saying you're panicking.
Well, they don't trail a lot. His game works way better from ahead, but I think he gets a little impatient when they're trailing. And then I'll say this. I also think that impatient. I think we've seen it in multiple examples of it. Well, I'll give you an example, the Atlanta game. The Atlanta game where they were getting the ball, Atlanta was dominating the time of possession. I thought the Niners got a little too aggressive and impatient in that game. I think sometimes Kyle gets too impatient when they fall behind, and he wants to start turning it in. He'll go away from the run game altogether. And then other times, to me, he's too conservative. And one area where he's way, way too conservative, and I think the league is showing this is where the trend is going, in short yardage. Start to go. You've got all these weapons.
Go for it.
You've got.
Why are you kicking field goals? Why are you punting?
And don't punt. I don't want to. Go for it on anything under 4th and 5 when you're outside your 40-yard line. He gets very, very conservative at times.
How many times did he punt from Rams territory in the NFC Championship game 2 years ago? How many times?
And what are you picking up? You're giving up a chance to go for it for 20 yards of field position in a sport where it's all big plays anyway. To me, go for it more. If you learn anything from Philly, from Baltimore, and the success they've had on going for it on 4th down, is that when you're outside your own 30, all the rest of the field, you got 70 yards to play with there. You get to 4th and under 5, go for it. Go for it. And if you don't get it, let your defense play defense.
The way I remember the game against Dallas in the playoffs was that Kyle got in his head and he was trying to trick Dan Quinn because Dan Quinn knows him so well. In the first half, their run game didn't work, but the runs they were calling were all these tricky runs they hadn't put on film yet because I think he thought he'd been scouted by Quinn. And what happened, I'm sitting next to Patrick Willis. He turns to me in the second quarter and he says, he doesn't know my name, but he says, why are they not imposing their will on Dallas with the run game? And then apparently around the same time, Christian McCaffrey and Juszczyk go up to Kyle and say, dude, we need to stop the cute stuff. Let's just take it to him. You don't need to run 8 million motions every play. You don't have to trick teams. When you have these running backs with Trent Williams, you should be able to line up and run at these teams. These teams aren't built to stop the run. And I feel like Kyle sometimes overthinks it. Man, you have the talent. Just line up and run. Line up and run at Philly the whole week. When people said the Niners are going to beat Philly, what was the reasoning? Well, Philly can't stop the run. This will be simple for the Niners. They can just physically take it to Philly, and that's the game. But Kyle didn't do that.
No,
he didn't make that. He wanted to make it a play action game. He made it a play action game.
The game was over after Purdy went out. I mean, was it not? It was. I mean, in my mind,
I compared that to a boxer coming out. Bell rings. Boxer comes out. Hands are down. Why? I don't know. Gets knocked out. And then he's just like, well, I wasn't ready. Like, well, damn, the bell rang. Like, what were you doing, dude? That was a real
and it's like
lazy play.
Just because you like to settle into the game a little bit doesn't mean that you don't need to challenge on the first series. Maybe the biggest play of the game is the first series. In this case, it was. I don't know. I don't want to throw too much blame on Shanahan for that because, to be honest, I didn't feel like me sitting on the couch got a good view of the replay until after the timeout, after the TV timeout. And I don't know what the guys in the booth saw and what they didn't see. Obviously, you had a Fonga going incomplete. That was hint number one. Hint number two was Hurts sprinting down the field to get the snap off. Just on that alone, I would have challenged. I do understand why he was protective of his challenge, but think about risk reward. If you don't challenge there, they're set up for a score. If you do challenge there and they deked you with the run down there, you've wasted your challenge. But that's not a disaster. It's not a disaster to waste your challenge. It is a disaster to have them set up on the doorstep in the biggest game of the year.
You have Christian McCaffrey. You traded for him. Ever since you got him, he's been your MVP and you've been scoring 35 points a game. You can't let Tyler Kroft decide the game. You can't let Brock Purdy decide the game. It's all about McCaffrey now until the wheels fall off. When Mike had Terrell Davis, he was smart enough to know that he was going to be damned if he was going to lose a game without Terrell Davis having his say about it. I mean, they gave Terrell Davis the ball over and over and over and over and over again. And I just don't understand why that wasn't the game plan against Philly. Like, that was your best foot forward. McCaffrey's going to win this game for you. And no, you're like, no, we're going to trick him on the first. They're expecting that. So we're going to go to Ayuk down the field and hope that Tyler Kroft, like, nah, man, come on. Get out of the way and let McCaffrey get you your first ring.
There's a little
Terrell Davis got your dad 2 rings. McCaffrey could get you 2 rings if you freaking let him. Mostert could have got you a ring if you freaking let him. Let him. Get out of the way. Get out of the way.
My comparison in there would be the Super Bowl against Kansas City. Debo at halftime was on pace to be the MVP of the game. He got 2 touches in the second half. 2 touches. He was unstoppable in the first half.
It shouldn't be so hard.
And
You
I
have
asked Kyle
really
about
great
that.
players. Let them do it.
I asked him about it. He's like, well, it's not really the way it's done. And I get it. But you know what? You have to.
What does that mean?
Well,
What does
he's
that mean?
saying,
The defense dictates who gets the ball. The defense dictates who gets the ball. No. You do, Kyle. You're a genius.
He's basically saying the defense can take away certain things. And I understand what he's saying. But at the end of the day, 2 touches in a half of football for your guy.
No,
Let's be honest about this. They had a chance to beat the Rams a couple of years ago in the NFC Championship game. It came down to the final drive. Who touched the ball? Cooper freaking Kupp.
Over
now,
and over
you
and
telling
over
me
again.
you telling me you didn't want to take him away? You did.
Who didn't touch the ball in the Niners?
In the second half of the Super Bowl, Debo.
No. The last 10 minutes of the game.
Well, the last 13 minutes of the game.
Yeah, Debo.
Yeah.
So there you go.
That to me was definitely a bad situation. All right.
So you want to say it's not choking, it's not panicking. I don't know what the word is, but it's definitely he does some uncharacteristic stuff when the pressure's on.
I think that there's times he gets too conservative. There's times he's too tied to his script. There's times he doesn't realize that, it's like, it's about the play. The game's about the players. So if you don't have the tight end to block Hassan Reddick, then don't put Croft in that position. If you have a player like Deebo Samuel that's really special, then make sure you figure out a way to get him the ball.
Isn't that like football 101? You don't have to be a freaking genius to figure that out. Like that's.
But I mean, and you can blame guys afterwards. I mean, now here comes Latu and here comes Braden Willis. Now you got better blockers at tight end. Croft is off the roster. Dwelly's probably going to get cut. But you know what? The game's over. Can you
imagine Andy Reid losing a Super Bowl and being like, "Yeah, I just couldn't get the ball to Travis Kelce. I don't know. I couldn't figure it out. They took him away, and I had no ideas how to beat him. So we lost."
Your best guys.
Sorry.
You have to figure out a way to get your best guys the ball.
You have to. That's your job. They pay you $10 million a year at least.
Let's jump to Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins has been. There's a lot of talk about Kirk Cousins. It's funny. Kirk Cousins says, "Oh, I'm not going to negotiate with Minnesota anymore," and immediately is like, everybody's like, Kirk Cousins to the Niners.
Pitiful.
Will Kirk Cousins ever play a down for the San Francisco 49ers?
I think it's 50-50 at this point. If Brock Purdy comes back this year.
50-50?
I think it's 50-50, man. If Brock Purdy comes back this year and picks up where he left off from last year, then no, they got Brock. If Brock takes a step back because of his injury for any reason, and Trey doesn't show that he's the guy, or Sam, and Kirk's available, I think Kyle's pretty predictable. We know how Kyle feels about Kirk. We don't really know how Kyle feels about Brock or Trey or Sam. I think John Lynch has made it very clear that he loves Brock Purdy, but Kyle, the only quarterback I think that has ever really made his heart pitter patter is Kirk. And doesn't it kind of feel like, 40 years old, going through a midlife crisis and hitting up your girlfriend from high school? It's just pathetic. Like, don't do it, Kyle. Just don't. Delete the number. Let it go. You know what I'm saying? You're 40.
I think Kirk Cousins should be, he's their last resort. And what I mean by that is this year, Brock shows that last year was an aberration, and he's really more of just a very good backup quarterback. Trey Lance shows that, he's got upside, but he really is not going to. He's not going to do it. And Sam Darnold shows that the turnovers that he had at SC and with the Jets are really all about him, and that's his game. And they go 0 for 3. They go 0 for 3, 0 for 4, let's say. Brandon Allen doesn't show any moxie. None of their quarterbacks step up for them in 2023. I think they go to Kirk Cousins in 2024. I don't think I would not say that's 50-50. I would say it's more like 85-15 against. I give it a
because you're very optimistic and positive.
I'm optimistic about all
but
three of the guys. All 4 of the guys, really.
Yeah, bro, I'm a big Brandon Allen guy. I'm a big Brandon Allen guy. Me and Papa.
I actually think Brandon Allen has a little moxie. I just think, one practice or whatever. But I mean, the idea that
he's got more than Sam
could be a starter. I don't know, but I mean, I don't think Brandon Allen's awful.
I know what you mean though. Because Sam Darnold has no moxie. Trey Lance, I don't know. I mean, how do you have moxie without experience, right? I don't think you can. You can fake it. Trey Lance is like the kind of guy. He's like the freshman at the party who hasn't gotten with anyone yet, but he's trying to fake all the confidence. But it's like, if he fakes it, he'll make it. But he just hasn't been in the game ever, so you can kind of tell that he doesn't know what he's doing. That's kind of what I feel about Trey. It's like, you have no experience, man. You can't fake that. Sorry.
No, you're right. I mean, you're right.
How do you fake that?
I personally feel like if there was a game tomorrow and everybody was healthy, Brock would be their starter and Brandon Allen would be their number 2. Because I really think if the game were tomorrow, he's probably more ready than Sam Darnold or Trey Lance. That's my feeling on it. But
if the Niners bury Trey Lance behind Brandon Allen, which they won't, at what point are we going to hold the Niners accountable for just throwing away 3 first-round picks? I mean, it'd be one thing if Trey Lance played 20 starts, won 5 of them, and stunk like Zach Allen, like Zach Wilson. He'd be like, all right, you gave him a shot, didn't work out, bust, it happens. But to just throw the picks away and say, you know what, we're never really going to find out what we got there. Oh, well, like, that's okay. We're good with that.
I would say the only way you're good with any kind of the only way Niner fans are okay with Trey not being worth all that draft capital is if Brock Purdy winds up being special. If Brock Purdy,
but that's not what I'm asking.
Special.
Not that he's not worth it, but that you literally don't even try to find out. You're like, you know what? We have Brock. Screw these first round picks. Screw Trey. Screw him in his 4 career starts. We don't care really what he's going to be. Someone else can find out. Like, really? That's a big investment to just say we're not even right. Abort mission. We're going with Brock. Okay.
I think you got to, at some point, you got to put Trey on the field and take a chance that either he can or can't. Take a chance that you could or couldn't evaluate.
You got to know. You got to know.
I feel like they're trying to protect partially themselves and partially him. I think they're trying to protect him from losing confidence. I think they're trying to protect their own evaluation from looking bad. And and as I said, it's a race. You got to learn what to do before you get broken. And I think he's still in that phase of learning what to do. And they just don't want to see him get broken. They've already got him, he's already gotten kind of partially broken physically. And I don't think, so I think they're trying to speed up the learning part and slow down the exposure. And hopefully by the time he hits the field and he's ready to roll, he will know what to do.
He's just in a big catch-22, and I feel terrible for him. He's in this situation where it's like he needs experience to get experience.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, oh, he can't play because doesn't have any experience, but he needs experience. It's like he needs ID to get ID. He's applying for identification. Like, okay, can we see your ID? Well, I'm trying to get ID. Well, you need ID to get ID. Well, right. Okay, I guess I'm not.
Trying to get a job.
He's screwed.
He's trying to get a job without experience, and he needs experience.
It's like you're screwed.
We want to hire you, but you have no experience. Well, but I need to get experience. Where do I get it? That's where the NFL could use a minor league system. Exactly. I mean, if there's any person that I've ever seen in the last 10 years that is just screaming example of the NFL needs a minors, it's Trey Lance.
Right.
It's Trey Lance.
I agree. And when the Niners sat him for his rookie year, I kept saying like, I'm sorry, but this doesn't address his lack of experience issue at all. And when he has a rough second year, people are just going to say, well, he didn't get the experience. Like I never understood the plan of sitting a guy who had just sat a year and had only played 1 year of college football. That never made any sense to me. Whoever drafted Trey Lance needed to be committed to playing him and giving him experience and losing or whatever it was going to take. I think it was fair to question that draft pick immediately and say, look, it could work out for Trey, but he is on a completely different timeline than the 49ers. Completely different timeline.
It's timing. Life's a lot about timing. It's too bad that they did not draft Trey Lance year 1 of Shanahan regime, because that he would have been the perfect quarterback in that first year.
Yep.
And it didn't work out. All right, let's go to the next one. Will the Niners sign or
real
trade?
Quick? Hold on.
Yeah,
you made a great point, and I want to finish it. That's why you take the quarterback first when you become a head coach. You don't build the team and then try to insert the quarterback, because you can't work with a Josh Allen then. Any young quarterback who's going to get off to a slow start is off the table for you. And those are going to be like most of the Hall of Fame quarterbacks. So you're constantly looking for quick fixes who end up after a year or two being basically system quarterbacks. Although I don't want to write off Brock, but that's been your past, Kyle. The Nick Mullins,
who knows?
CJ Beathard's.
Deshaun Watson started fast. He really looked good right away. But Mahomes didn't play that first year and then had an epic 50 touchdown year.
Yeah.
But what would he have done if he had played that first year? I don't know. But yeah, I mean, if they were going to go with Trey, a raw quarterback that needed development, man, it should have been the year 1 of their system, because then they could have just said, you know what, we're going to take our lumps as he takes his lumps, and then we're going to grow together, and it's either and unfortunately, it's just not the way it worked out. Are they going to deal? Should they deal or sign a veteran edge rusher? And of the group that's out there, if you're running the show, what are you doing here? Are you bringing in a veteran guy? Would you rather have a free agent? Would you trade for a Montez Sweat or a Chase Young? I like Montez Sweat. I love Chase Young, what he did at Ohio State, but the money and the injuries and the lack of production since the injury worries me too much. But with all these compensatory picks and them having their full complement of picks next year, if Washington wants some combination of picks for Montez Sweat, done. I'm making that deal. I think they need a Montez Sweat opposite Bosa. What do you think?
I don't think they're making that deal yet. Here's the way I think they're looking at it. They made a big investment in Drake Jackson, late second. Yeah. They signed 2 edge rushers in Cleveland Farrell and Austin Bryant. Not huge investments, but they had a plan. They knew they were going to lose Amenahue and Ebukam. They had Drake Jackson waiting, and they signed 2 guys. So to go out and get Montez Sweat right now would be sort of saying our plan sucked, which teams don't do in June. So what I could see happening is the Niners giving these guys, Drake, Farrell, Bryant, a chance through training camp, see what they look like in the preseason, maybe a few games in the regular season too. And if it's a problem that they don't have this bookend edge rusher, they'll make a move. They've made, every year they've made that they've been good. They've made like a big mid-season move. So
you're talking about in October at the deadline.
They could do it. Last year was McCaffrey. This year they could get an edge rusher. There's always a guy who's available. So I wouldn't rule that out, but I feel like they want to give Drake Jackson a chance. I know they throw away high draft picks quickly, but I think they want to give Drake a chance.
I love Drake too, but let's be honest. Drake was inactive for like the last 5 or 6 regular season games and the playoffs. It's like, are you asking Drake to do too much?
Perhaps.
You lost. What about the rotation? It seems like Chris's D-line works best on a rotation. I don't have a lot of belief in Cleveland Farrell. I know there's a lot of people that believe that he's going to be special, or not special, but at least a contributor. I don't know, man. I don't know. I think Ebukam and Willis and
that's where
were pretty
Bryant
good players.
And Beal come in for a rotation. No, I think they could absolutely use another D end. I just don't think they're going to make that move anytime soon. That to me feels like a September or October move. Because all the investment they made in Drake and all the things they've said about him this offseason is kind of Trey Lancey, but they said they invested, they said he's improved, they said he's a lot better, more mature and stronger. So if they were to go get a high-priced D end, it would seem like they were just not lying, but paying lip service and, gassing him up. I'm taking them at their word that they're actually encouraged early on from Drake, and they're going to give him a chance to see if he can keep it going. That's just the way I read the situation.
Yeah, no,
stock up.
To me, it's like they always go with a ton of defensive linemen, but this is the one spot where I love the defensive tackle depth. I don't love the defensive end depth, and I would get Montez. If I could get Montez, that's to me he's a very special player that if on the Niners could be a Pro Bowler, and he could be the difference between a Super Bowl berth and no Super Bowl berth. And I like Drake Jackson, but I would rather slow play him a little bit more in year 2 than just say, you know what, you need to play 50 snaps a game because Cleveland Farrell can't do it. Austin Bryant can't do it. Kerry Hyder's more of a tackle. Robert Beal's not ready. I don't know about you, Grant, but if there's been one player that has been underwhelming to me in these offseason, now granted it's the offseason, you can't judge it good or bad too much, but it's Robert Beal. I'm out there watching practices. What I try to make sure I do is I try to make sure I don't look for guys. I'll let the guys kind of flash to me. If I got to look for you, that's not good. I have not noticed him ever. And I'm watching the D-line drills. I'm looking. He just does not stand out at all. So I don't know.
I think it's his jersey number. He's 33. It's a bad look. He looks like a
maybe.
He looks like a DB. He looks like a he looks like a nickel. He's hella tall though. I think it's the number.
Well, have you seen him look good?
Bad.
Do you feel like you've seen him look good?
I haven't noticed him I don't even know if he's been playing in 11 on 11. I haven't noticed him out there. That's a good point. But hey, I'm just saying, it's early. And if we had to bet on this, I would just say they're not going to make a move for a big time D end in June or July. That's not going to happen. Maybe it should, But I think given the investment they made on Drake and the strides he's made this offseason, they're going to give him a chance to take the job the way they let Spencer Burford take right guard last year. Like, at a certain point, when you're spending all this money on like 7 or 8 players, you need guys like Drake on their rookie deal to hit. You can't have vets at every single spot. You can't.
3 quick hitters, and then we'll hit some super chats and get out. Who could be among the surprise either trade candidates or cut candidates at the cut down this year? Who do you like? There's always some guys. It's easy to go, well, some backup last guy. The guys who are going to get cut are going to get cut. But I went through this exercise and put together a 53-man roster for a video that I did this week. And man, it is going to be really, really difficult to pare down this roster. I mean, really difficult. And there's going to be some good players that will be getting cut from this team. And I'm just when I looked at the list, I was like, wait a second. I started to see it a little bit differently than I saw it originally. What do you think? Is there, give me a guy that you think that right now, like if you said the name, we'd be like, what? No. But they're going to cut that guy or trade that guy at the deadline or at the cut down.
What about Kinlaw?
Yep.
They just signed Hargrave. So Kinlaw's not going to play much here. And let's say he has a good offseason and plays well in the preseason. A team might be interested. Say, like, hey, we could actually use Javon Kinlaw. We'll trade you another player who hasn't worked out for us and that we've replaced, but you might need. Like, you could trade him for a young D-end or a young offensive tackle. How about Kinlaw? If he shows that he's healthy and has a little value, I mean, the Niners already replaced him.
Yeah, no, he's on my list as well. I had Kinlaw, Ambry Thomas, Charlie Warner. Well, I'll give you the biggest one, though, Juwan Jennings. Now, Juwan Jennings, I don't care what Juwan Jennings looks like in practice. There's people like, well, he dropped a couple balls in practice. I don't care. I don't care that Juwan Jennings isn't a good practice player. I don't care. I don't care. I've seen enough. I know he's a big game guy. But look at receiver. You're loaded. This team's loaded. You're going to go with 3 wide receivers. You're going to go with at least 3 quarterbacks. You're going to go with at least 3 tight ends. You're probably going to go with 10 defensive linemen. You got a can full of running backs. To me, you've got Debo, Ayuk. To me, Ray is going to make it because of the return ability. Danny Gray, I think, is going to make it because of the home run hitting ability. And then that's 4. So that means Juwan Jennings is going up against every other receiver, which includes Chris Conley, Tay Martin, Willie Snead, Ronnie Bell. There's a few others there, but I think Ronnie Bell and Tay Martin are going to play as good or better, and they'll be cheaper. And I think Juwan Jennings could be a trade in August.
I am concerned about Juwan Jennings' drops in practice because they happen in games too. Like last year, his drop percentage was 12.5. He had 7 drops on 56 targets. That's way too high for a possession receiver. And what happens is he's running over the middle a lot. He has good hand-eye coordination. He just, I don't know, maybe he turns upfield before he sees the ball into his hands. But a lot of times those passes tip off his hand and get intercepted. There were 3 targets that went his way last year that were intercepted. And when he was targeted last year, the quarterback rating was 68. So yeah, he makes big plays, but at the same time, it's a gamble thrown into him because he drops the ball 12% of the time. And so to that point, high. Like, yeah, man, if you could get Ronnie Bell to like catch the freaking ball, then you don't need Juwan Jennings anymore and his drops and his 4.7. Yeah.
But he's also kind of a fixture in the room. He kind of carries himself like he's a significant player.
He can be great. He can be great. He just needs to be more consistent. End of story.
Yeah.
He can be really good.
I would not be surprised if somehow Bell and Tay Martin beat him out for his spot. Bold prediction. You got a bold prediction for the upcoming season? I've got 2 that stand out to me.
They go through all their quarterbacks again, and they don't win the division.
Wow.
I'm
like
cynical.
Seattle or Rams?
Yeah. Seattle. It's a young team, but Pete Carroll has had a lot of success with young teams before.
And they're going to go through all 4 quarterbacks.
Yeah, I mean, Seattle actually has a decent young offensive line and a quarterback who didn't get hurt last year. And I know Niner fans think he's trash, but he would start for this team. And if Purdy was on that team, Geno would start for that team. So I'm going with Seattle. I'm usually wrong, though, and I'm in a weird mood today. Keep that in mind. Weird.
I'm going to go with J.P. Mason is going to become a primary offensive threat in this offense. after a year where he didn't really do anything last year. But you look at his 4.2 yards after contact. You look at his heart. To me, he's in awesome shape. Maybe he weighed 240 last year. To me, he looks like 225, 230 now. He's leaner. He's fast. He's explosive. I know there's a bunch of backs: TDP, Elijah, some rookies. Obviously, there's CMC. But JP Mason, Jordan Mason is going to become a primary ball carrier for the Niners this year. He's going to be a major portion of their offense.
How do the Rams not ever get a running back like him or Mitchell? If they had Mitchell or Mason, they would be legit, but they don't. And so no one really cares about the Rams. I mean, they have no run game. What is their problem? I don't understand that. Anyway, thank goodness the Niners have Bobby Turner. That guy does not get enough credit. I think we should talk about him every single show. He's so important to their. He left for like 6 months. They drafted Ty Davis Price. He came back. He's like, all right, cool. I don't know what you were thinking there, but I'm back. You're welcome.
It's seriously, the most underrated thing that you can have in the NFL are assistant coaches that have great eye for personnel. That's what Bob McKittrick was. That's what Ray Rhodes was. That's what Bobby T is. Mm-hmm. That's what I think Steve Wilkes is. Yeah. Johnny Holland. Look at their linebackers.
He does not get enough credit. Johnny Holland could be the best coach in the whole team. He was gone for a year too. I believe he had cancer. Came back. Johnny Holland. Shout out Johnny.
Oh man, You're too young to remember Johnny Holland, but Johnny Holland was great at A&M. All right, give me last one. Yeah, way too young. Yeah. I joked with him about it. I said, Johnny, I'm a big A&M fan, and he's like, gig 'em Aggies. All right. Give me a bust out team. Give me a surprise team in the NFL. One or two that you're like, you know what? Nobody's talking about this team or that team, but this team or that team's gonna take off. What do you got?
Good question. All right. Let's go real deep. How about Chicago? I think they had 3 wins last year, 3 or 4 wins. I'm not saying they're going to win 13 games, but what about them winning 9 or 10? I mean, they added a bunch of players to their offense. They drafted Darnell Wright to play right tackle. I like that. I mean, I don't know about their coaching staff. Chicago's kind of a terrible organization, so I don't know. They feel like maybe a year away, but they could be that team that all of a sudden is the 7th seed. And then in their own division, like Detroit is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
They got Jahmyr Gibbs. Clearly they want to have their version of McCaffrey. They got Jack Campbell. I think they think that's their version of Fred Warner. A lot of teams want to be the 49ers. And what Detroit has over the Niners is a really good offensive line with two great tackles and a great center and a quarterback who they can keep healthy. Although he sucks when he's not playing in that dome up there. So I don't know about Detroit, but if they could get the 1 seed and just keep it all in Detroit, maybe.
I'm going Denver in the AFC with Sean Payton. I just think that I think they could reverse their record, from last year. And I like well, I'm not a huge McGlinchey guy. But I do like what Denver's done, and I think Denver's already got a pretty good defense. I think Russell will play better. I think Sean Payton is going to make a huge impact there. And the other one, I like Frank Reich. I like Carolina. I think Bryce Young's going to be that young. He's going to be the exception. He's so bright. He's so ready. I think Bryce Young's going to hit the ground running. I like Carolina. They added Adam Thielen at receiver. They've got some underrated receivers. They drafted Jonathan Mingo. They've got a real good tackle in a Conwu. Defensively, you got Brian Burns, you got Derek Brown, drafted Jamie Robinson. They got J.C. Horn. I like Carolina. I think Carolina's gonna be the team in that division, and I like Denver in the AFC.
Are the Jets too obvious?
No, you saw that thing about the stats where how many the rest deal. The Jets have a rest advantage on like 13 games this year. So obviously,
what if the Super Bowl is Kyle against Salah?
The Jets and Adam Shine predicted Jets Niners.
Look at how freaking good their defense was last year.
But he's saying Sam Darnold is going to lead the Niners there.
Wouldn't that be amazing if it was Salah against Darnold? That would be money. Schedule the script makers. That would be something I would do if I were a script maker.
Freaking believable.
No, I think the Jets could definitely be in the Super Bowl this year. They have as good of a defense as anyone, and they have as good of a quarterback as anyone. It's usually a good combination.
Let's hit these chats here. We got this one from Charlie. He says 3 starting quarterbacks in one room. Trade Trey Lance and a 3rd-round pick for Danielle Hunter. Go all in for this year and win it. Purdy can win games. It will be the best D-line in the NFL. If I'm trading Trey Lance and a 3rd-round pick, I want more than Danielle Hunter. I'm not setting. You got to remember this. Minnesota's, looking at Kirk Cousins and huge cash outlay. You're going to give them a young quarterback that costs nothing in their backyard for Danielle Hunter. I want more than that. But I hear you, Charlie.
I'm telling you though, like if you trade for Danielle Hunter and Brandon Allen ends up having to start because all the other quarterbacks are hurt, it doesn't matter how good your D-line is going to be. You're going to lose all the games. So I think the Niners just learned this lesson. They keep talking about like, hey, it wouldn't hurt to have numbers at the quarterback position. Yeah, you might want to keep the numbers until you prove that you can actually protect any of these dudes.
Yeah. Zachary says, Zachary Kelway says, Kyle Shanahan is the best coach in the history of the NFL. Teams generally take a step or 2 forward and a step backward. Kyle Shanahan teams are always getting better, faster. Our backups are better oriented than half the teams in the league. Zachary.
Period.
Big fan of Mina Kimes. Do you see that? Mina Kimes had Kyle Shanahan as the 2nd best coach in the entire NFL. And then
based
we also
on what?
I don't know. That's what she
not
says.
his record.
She listed him as number 2. And Kurt the Chameleon has an interesting one. He says, Krug, I liked your take on 95.7 The Game about the quarterback situation narrative. He says using stats to drive the narrative makes no sense at all. It's all going to pan out in the end anyway.
Good point.
No, my whole point was just that, hey, you know what? This has become a referendum on arm strength when we're comparing Brock and Trey. And then when we compare Trey and Sam, then it's a referendum on turnovers. And then it's like, it's a circular debate. Trey's got a better arm than Brock, but maybe Sam Darnold's got a better arm than Trey. But Trey probably takes care of the ball better than Sam, but Brock probably takes care of it.
That's why I keep coming back to the fact that Kyle can't keep any of them healthy, and we need to talk about Kyle. Because we could keep going in circles on the quarterbacks forever. And while Kyle Shanahan just he's like the guy in the cafeteria who throws the first Jell-O pack. He starts the food fight, but he's out. And all of a sudden it's going crazy and he doesn't get anything on. I'm like, Kyle, back in the room. You started the food fight. Now you need some tapioca in your face. Fair is fair.
The thing about Kyle, the one major advantage that nobody ever talks about is that fresh in the mind of his boss, Jed York, is Chip Kelly and Jim Tomsula. And so no matter how it goes, they've been in the NFC Championship game in 3 of the last 4 years. And every time Jed is frustrated, he just goes, could be Chip, could be Tomsula and Joan and payroll.
One thing I heard that Kyle said during the state of the franchise is that he's never experienced any pressure put on him from the Yorks to do anything out of his timeline or that he wouldn't normally want to do. So essentially, the Yorks have never put any pressure on him. Is that good? I think you always want a little bit of pressure from your bosses. I don't think Eddie was telling Walsh, "Hey man, do whatever you want. I'll see you in 15 years." Like, I don't think Lacob works that way.
It's a little bit of a flex. It's a little bit of a public flex.
I get to do what I want to do.
My bosses, before you make a move on me, just know that my bosses have never even questioned me.
Correct.
It's a flex.
They love me. It's a super flex, but it also makes Jed look bad. Like, dude, you're the boss, man. You should sometimes maybe have some tough conversations with Kyle. It doesn't mean fire him, but he should feel like I don't feel like he thinks there's anyone in the organization who's qualified to critique anything about his job. And I think he acts that way.
Only thing I'll say about that, I don't love when Jed gets involved. I didn't like the tweet on Thanksgiving. Did you?
No.
I don't like, to me that you're in dangerous territory. I think Eddie D was
so what's his job?
Well, I mean, cut checks.
He's the boss.
Cut checks.
So Kyle's the boss of the organization.
Yeah, no doubt. He's the boss.
He's the owner of the 49ers.
He is the buck stop.
Bill Walsh never had that much pressure had that much power on the 49ers. There were checks and balance, but Kyle is the owner of the franchise. Wow.
Well, the only thing is that you and I have noticed that when the Niners go through rough stretches, Dr. John is at practice.
That is the only oversight. And it's like, it's sending a message, hey, man, I'm watching you. I own this team. But at the same time, like, he doesn't know what he's looking at. There's no person, like John Lynch knows what he's looking at, but Kyle hired him. So what's John going to say? There's no one on the team who can go up to him and be like, Kyle, dude, you messed up here. You got to do better here. This is your evaluation. It's just, hey, Kyle, great to see you. Or if you're 3-4, there's Dr. York walking around for whatever reason. Does he even say hello? Maybe. But you're sending a message.
I like where Jed's at right now. Yeah, you could say you want him to come to drive Kyle harder, but you know what? To me, I like Jed in the, I don't want to say glorified fan because he's more involved, but I like him in the not heard from, not tweeting, just cutting checks, just supporting. I don't know that I would be very nervous if he was in any other role.
That's not the full job, though, I feel like.
I know.
Sorry to cut. I mean,
no.
If that's all he wants to do, let someone else do his job. I'll do it.
Have a president. Well, wait a second. We got one chat here.
I'll do it.
Daniel Marte says, Krug went to Pig in a Pickle, and it's the real deal. Grant, I met you in Denver, at dinner the morning of that Sunday night game. Keep up the good work, guys. 100.
I remember you, man. What's up, Daniel? They had this crazy, really good diner in Denver that gives you like these huge plates for like $7. It's cool.
I'll tell you, you want to hear a depressing. Sam's? Here's a depressing thing for you. 3 times in the last 6 weeks, I've had people come up to me. Once at the gas station, twice at Safeway, and you know what they say? They come over, they point at me, and they're Grant Cohn, and I'm like, no,
I'm Larry.
Larry
no, I'm Larry.
Larry no, but I know, but you're on with Grant Cohn. You're on with Grant Cohn. Dude, you're
how old are they?
Up.
How old every time? How old are they?
19 to 22.
Yeah. So it's funny. Okay, I got a story, and then we'll
19 to 22.
I go to the YMCA, and it's a bunch of teenagers working out and they're all in way better shape than me. It pisses me off.
Nice pull-ups, by the way. I can't do that many pull-ups. I mean, you against Rich Madrid. I'd like to see it.
Yeah, tomorrow I got to up my game up today. Anyway, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, so there's these kids, and they're all in great shape, and they piss me off because they better than me at that stuff. There's one kid there. He's a Jewish kid named Noah, right. And I'm Jewish, so we started talking, and he doesn't know who I am, which I think is cool. But then he comes in the other day, and he goes, "Tell me why I went home and my dad had you on the screen." I was like, So his dad is a guy named Robert Gammon who sends in super chats like all the time.
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
I know your dad. Yeah, absolutely. So small world.
That is awesome.
Shout out Noah Gammon, the Jewish bodybuilder who played middle linebacker at Oakland Tech. Yeah, probably the only Jewish middle linebacker in the history of Oakland sports. Shout out Noah.
Jared Carlin says, Grant for president, Cohn 2024. We got this one. Dusty Gold said, Jed's no Eddie. Here, we'll finish with this one. This is one of my favorites. Mark Lopez, get Kyle and Grant in a ring together. Proceeds go to charity. Winner gets quality control jacket.
That would be pathetic. Me and Kyle. That would be pathetic. Whoo.
That would be great, dude.
But yet somehow he's got reach on me. He's taller than me.
He's a former collegiate wide receiver. He'd probably whip you.
Yeah, but I can do 20 pull-ups, so watch out. Heck of players in the Niners saw me doing that, and they're like, I'm not messing with him anymore. Damn.
Dude, how do you do so many pull-ups, man? I can't do that.
I weigh 172 pounds.
I was going to say, and you skipped. You know what? You got to work out more with Javon Hargrave. He never skips leg day. You always skip leg day.
No. Okay, so I do legs every other day, but I'm just not naturally strong. Can I confess something? I fell doing squats yesterday. I couldn't get up, and I fell.
What do you mean?
It was the most embarrassing. Like I've dropped to a knee, and then I had to drop it on. I was the dork in the gym. Everyone's like,
"Well, how much weight was it? How many plates?"
I don't want to talk about it. I just didn't. I was distracted yesterday, and I didn't have it. And it was my second rep, and I unracked it. It was like the substitute teacher who writes his name on the board, farts, and then just erases it and leaves. Yeah, that was me. I don't know why I even showed up today. Did other stuff.
How many people are part of the Cohn Zone right now? What does the Grant Cohn channel have for subs right now? Where are you at?
Ooh.
I'm closing in right now on 19,000.
Oh,
19,000. Oh. The goal is 20,000 by camp, man.
You got
that would be 20,000 in about 15 months.
Got it, man. I got 65. I got 65. You're gaining on me, man. You're gaining on me, man.
65, man.
It's nice.
65. How old is the channel? Your channel?
Ooh.
I
started it just to expose Mike McGlinchey in 2018. They used to let you film one-on-ones, but it didn't really start taking off until 2020. That's when I started putting out videos every day. Originally, it was just to expose McGlinchey.
If you started,
I have a house today because of Mike McGlinchey. Thank you, Mike. Thank you very much.
If you started your channel today, could you grow it as fast? What do you think? There's more people in the space now.
Maybe
you're still
it takes
still
time.
Kind of dominating in the space.
Nah, next year you're gonna pass me. It's gonna be you, baby. It's gonna be you.
Well, no, it's me and my kid. It's me and my kid.
Yeah, you have.
I've got a kid,
Kevin Krueger. That's not fair. I don't have a kid who's 21. You're gonna pass me up.
Wait a second. You know why? Because you know the impact of Kevin Krueger right here. The Krug Show. It says hit that like button. That's not me. That's
I don't have anyone doing that for me. It's an unfair advantage. It's like performance enhancing drugs. It's not fair.
Could you get Lowell to be on the payroll? Hey, Dad, make a thumbnail.
No,
I'd love to see.
I'm retired. Yeah, right.
He's like, maybe if you buy me a bottle of wine, I'll make a thumbnail. All right, brother. Hey, when's camp actually start? Do we know? Is there a date? How many weeks are we out on camp?
It's usually like July 27th. People report. Charlie McElhannon has something to say about Daniil Hunter.
What did he say? When we say,
he says,
where is he?
At the very bottom.
Charlie McElhannon says Daniil Hunter is an all-pro, 14.5 sacks back-to-back years. Allen was Josh Allen's backup. Having him as a third is pretty good. No, he was Joe Burrow's backup. I hear you. Look at the Eagles D-line that went to the Super Bowl. Daniil Hunter is proven.
Yeah, he's a great player.
I'm
saying they might trade for him. I just think that's more like September, October. I could be wrong. But they could definitely get Daniil Hunter if Drake Jackson shows he's not ready. That'd be a great move.
Seriously, get somebody good. And Dusty Gold says, Larry giving out free merch for new subs. Oh, I got a new merch site. I got sweatshirts, T-shirts, and I don't have to handle it. I'm not like going to the mailing stuff out myself. People can just order it, and it's a beautiful thing. So check it out on YouTube. Grant, you're the man. Keep it rolling, man. Always love your stuff. And we sometimes agree, we sometimes disagree, but you and I always keep it 100. And I got great respect for you, man. So keep it rolling. And thanks for jumping on my channel. We'll do it again before camp, hopefully.
Respect. See you soon. Thanks, guys.
Take care. The great Grant Cohn. Awesome. Dusty Gold says, love your new merch. Love your new merch. Thank you. Thank you, Dusty Gold. Yeah, my son set it up. Go to our YouTube channel, The Krug Show. Hit like and subscribe, by the way. We got 500 people in the room. Thanks to Grant today. We've got a shout out. Now we're giving the shout out to Kevin Krueger. Let's not get him too big of a head. Mr. Fab. Shout out Kevin Krueger. No, but Kevin's doing some great videos. So, one of the things that Grant does is incredible is he does these live streams and then he'll turn them into incredible videos and he'll get, 25,000 people on the watching his live stream, but then he'll get another 100,000 people watching the videos. So we've kind of copied that approach, but I don't want to just put out, just any videos. I want to make sure that I actually believe in everything that we're putting out. Right. So to me, it is about quality control. I want to make sure that there's quality on our channel, but thanks to Kev, because he's doing a great job. And check out merch on our channel and support the Krug Show. Let me thank a couple of my sponsors. Brand new sponsor on the bottom of the screen, Marin Auto Glass. You're driving around, you get a crack in your windshield. You need a new windshield. It's a pain in the ass. Call Marin Auto Glass, marinautoglass.com, 415-883-3030. They'll come to your house, pop out your old windshield, pop in the new one, do all the glazing, take out all the glass. It's a one-stop shop. They're great. Saeed, huge fan of my show, and we're huge fans of Marin Auto Glass. marinautoglass.com, 415-883-3030. We're also brought to you by New York-style Italian sausage, and we are also brought to you by Pig in a Pickle. They're the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Check them out in Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week in Marin, Wednesday through Sunday in Emeryville. Get the brisket chili. It's amazing. Here's what it looks like.
We grew up with a Sunday dinner. That means no matter how busy you were, no matter where the hell you were, you came to dinner on a Sunday night. Yeah, Sunday dinner without sausage, it's like a church without God. You know, how can you go to church if you don't believe in God? You know, and along with the sausage also became the discussions. That was discussion night. You know, it wasn't a typical family that you sit there and you're quiet, you know, and you don't talk with a mouthful. Oh no, man. Italians talk when they're eating. Italians even talk when they're sleeping. And definitely we talk with our hands. So if we can't express it through our mouth, through our lips, we express it with our hands. So, and that's what sausage is, really. It's an expression, you know, that life is good.
All right, coming down the home stretch on the Krug Show. Yeah, we are at 18,951 subs, closing in on 19,000. We're hoping to get to 20,000 by training camp. Hit like and subscribe. If you hit like, that just helps the algorithm. More people find the videos and the live stream, so on and so forth. And if you hit subscribe, every time we go live, you'll get a little alert on your phone that says, hey, they're going live on the Krug Show. Jump in. So if you're one of the close to 400 people hanging in the room right now, if you've yet to subscribe, if you're a Grant fan and you haven't subscribed to the channel on the Krug Show, please do. It helps me. It helps my family. It helps my son. It helps my grandkids. No, I don't have grandkids. But by the way, it is Father's Day weekend, and that is my favorite title, being a father. So happy Father's Day to all of you. Hope you get a great weekend with your kids, barbecuing, doing whatever you're doing. I got one kid coming home from college. I got another daughter at med school. I've got a 13-year-old that's going to be playing baseball. 14-year-old. Don't get that wrong. Who's going to be playing baseball later today. I got another son who's playing varsity summer league at Chico at a tournament this weekend. So a lot going on with the kids. I'm going to watch a little Giants Dodgers later today. Or tonight, I should say. What a Giants game last night. Oh, my freaking God. Last night was incredible. I had Ned Coletti on after the game with Dan Cochimilio, and we chopped it up on Giants Dodgers. An amazing live stream last night. So check that out. Check out Kev's videos. We're doing all kinds of videos on the Niners every day. But I don't want to just do a bunch of garbage videos, right? So it's like really a challenge to make sure that I want to get compelling shit that you guys want to hear, that actually advances the story and maybe provides some entertainment or some perspective or some knowledge on some of the players. I did an interview for an hour this week with Niners undrafted rookie running back Ronald Awatt. Great kid, and it was really fun to catch up with him. Check that out. That's on the channel. Trying to catch up with Adam Peters in the next week to 10 days and do kind of a deep dive on some of the young players ahead of camp, so you can hear straight from Peters' mouth himself exactly what he thinks of not just the guys they drafted, but even the undrafted free agents. Because the Niners, let's be honest, the Niners have one of the deepest teams in the league. To me, it's Chiefs, Eagles, Niners, deepest teams in the NFL. And how are the Niners doing it? You know, they didn't have a number one. They didn't have a number two. And how are they doing it? Well, they're doing it because they're kicking ass on day 3 of the draft, and they're kicking butt after the draft. So, you know, I mean, what can I say? I mean, to me, Peters and Lynch, Say what you want. I mean, when John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan took over, I really felt good about Shanahan. And I just didn't know how I felt about Lynch because he'd never done the gig. But Lynch has grown into this job really well. They've got a lot of talent. I mean, look at their roster. I mean, if you look at their roster and you say, wow, there's so many guys. Juwan Jennings, 7th-round pick. Tay Martin and Ronnie Bell. Ronnie Bell was a 7th-round pick. Tay Martin, undrafted free agent. These guys can play. I'm telling you. Burford, day 3 pick, starting right guard. George Kittle, starting tight end, day 3 pick. Braden Willis. Wait till you see Braden Willis this summer. 7th-round pick at Oklahoma. Brock Purdy, 7th-round pick. Elijah Mitchell, 6th-round pick. Jordan Mason, undrafted free agent. You see the trends here? I mean, it's amazing what the Niners. Kalia Davis is a baller. Wait till you see him this summer. 6th-round pick. Wait till you guys see Spencer Wagee. I'm telling you, Spencer Wagee is a good football player. Undrafted free agent. Jalen Graham in round 7, steal. Dre Greenlaw, day 3, round 5, steal. Talanoa Hufanga, round 5, steal. The Niners have this corner named Deshaun Jameson, undrafted free agent. Guy can flat out play. Can't wait to see him. He's going to make the team. Didn't even get drafted. So, I mean, that's how they're doing it. That's how they're doing it. They've got a good eye on free agents. Dusty Gold says 49ers do have a good eye on free agents. There's no doubt. Jay Mill. Larry, blink twice if Don Batanti has you under undue stress. Pasquale? Yes, Pasquale. Check out New York style Italian sausage. You can't go wrong with New York style Italian sausage. J49 says hit the like to get Larry to 19,000 subs this week. Yeah, Dusty Gold. Wow, Larry really needs all the revenue he can get for all those college payments. Tell me about it. Jay Mills says Larry was on live when I went to bed last night, and he was on live when I got up this morning. I'm 3 hours ahead of y'all on the East Coast. LOL. Car Gods. Larry, great show like always. Good takes yesterday at the radio station. Hey, check me out Monday, by the way. I'll be on 95.7 The Game on Monday. J49. Now my day is complete. Fire. 19,000 subs is near. Larry rocks. Larry rocks. Grant is a killer. HFD. Okay. We got this one from Fumble Rooski. Larry, can you continue this live until midnight, please? Just do a marathon. Just a marathon stream. Welcome to hour 47 of the Krug Show. Could you imagine that? And we got this one from Waveware. Wagee and Kalia Davis will be interesting. Yeah. Steve Supremo says, you doing call-ins yet? We'll do a call-in show. Maybe I'll do a call-in show on this weekend. Kind of a copy of the Cohn phone. We'll do like a Krug calls. We could do that. Dusty Gold says, glad you're getting more airtime on 95.7. Yeah, I mean, they wanted to hire me there full-time. It just didn't work out. Just didn't work out with the YouTube channel and what I was requiring and what they were requiring. But we decided that, you know what? They like me. I like them. We'll keep it 100, and I'll just fill in from time to time. And maybe that will change in time. But right now, I'm very happy doing the channel and just filling in there. And who knows? Maybe I'll do pregame like I did last year with Lo Neal on the 49ers there. That was a lot of fun. I love Lo Neal. BV50 says, Larry or Kevin, how do I order the shirt with the big circled Krug Show with a microphone in the middle? You can go to YouTube or you can DM me. And I've got some in a box sitting behind me. XL. They're large XL, double XL, and triple XL. They're $25 plus $10 to ship. Or you can go online at the Krug Show on YouTube, and we've got a deal where you can go and order T-shirts, pocket, with a little emblem on the side. You can have the big shirt with a emblem in the middle. There's sweatshirts, hoodies, a lot of good stuff there. Merch, as my 14-year-old would say to me, Dad, you got merch. L Fox says, how about some more Krug at FP Santangelo? I love FP. Be great. Love to talk to FP. Anyway, hey, guys, thank you very much for joining the live stream. Thanks to Grant, who's always fantastic. He was in a mood. He kept saying that today. I'm in a mood today. It was good stuff. And you know what, Grant, there are people when I got to start doing this going, oh, we don't like Grant. It's come on. Seriously, what? He's got opinions. He's just a guy with opinions, And to me, the world needs more people with more opinions, not fewer people with fewer opinions. And if he gets fired up, so what? We're talking about sports. It's not life. It's not death. We're all just getting fired up. But yeah, support Grant's channel. Not that he needs more subs, but 60,000 plus subs. Bro's raking it in. All right, guys, have a great Saturday. Enjoy that great NorCal weather. Happy Father's Day weekend to all you dads out there. Peace.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you gon' get exactly what you asked for. Here for whatever you bring me, get in hand.